All right, welcome back. So we are looking at least common multiple and greatest common factor today. Let's talk about the vocabulary first. Least common multiple is the smallest number other than zero that is a multiple of two or more given numbers. And then greatest common factor is the largest common factor of two or more given numbers. So LCM and GCF, they're abbreviations. Let's talk about how most people learn it. So if we find the LCM and GCF of 24 and 32, we're looking for the least common multiple. In other words, if I am multiplying 24 and 32 by 1, by 2, by 3, until I get a common number, that is my least common multiple. So 24 times 2 is 20. 24 times 1 is 24, times 2 is 48, times 3 is 72, times 4 is 96, 32 times 1 is 32, times 2 is 64, times 3 is 96. That is our least common multiple because it is the first number they have in common. All right, now they also have other common multiples like 192, but we're looking for the least common multiple being 96. Now, greatest common factor is when you're breaking apart your number to see, okay, what do they have in common that can be multiplied? So 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, 1 times 32, 2 times 16, 4 times 8. These are the different things we can pull apart. We're looking for the greatest number that they have in common to be multiplied by. So 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, 1 times 32, 2 times 16, 4 times 8. These are all different ways you can multiply numbers to get to 24 or 32. In common, they have 1, they have 2, they have 4, and they have 8. Thus, the greatest common factor is 8. Now, if we want to find the LCM and GCF of 24 and 32, we need to think about what number goes into both of our numbers, factor out that number, and repeat as many times as possible. In other words, we're using our prime factorization skills to pull apart our two numbers. So I've got 24 and 32 in my first ring of my ladder. I know I can divide them both by 2. I can still divide both by 2, still divide both by 2, and these are the numbers I get. In order to find the GCF, I can multiply the side. And in order to find my least common multiplier, I can multiply all of the outside. So either of these two ways works, where you just list out a bunch of numbers of multiples or where you just list out a bunch of factors. But this is a quick way and kind of a quick little hack, if you might, if you'd like to do it that way. So if I'm looking at 12 and 18, to find the LCM and the GCF, I could either say, okay, I've got 12 and I've got 18. 12 times 1 is 12, times 2 is 24, times 3 is 36, times 4 is 48. 18 times 1 is 18, times 2 is 36. Oh, I found something in common. Because these are smaller numbers, it's fairly easy for me to go ahead and just multiply as far as I can. And then for GCF, 12, I know I can multiply 1 times 12. I can multiply 2 times 6. I can multiply 3 times 4. That might be it. For 18, I know I can multiply 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. So if I'm looking at these, I know I've got 1 in common, I've got 2's in common, I've got 3's in common, and I have 6 in common. Thus, the greatest common factor would be 6. GCF is 6, and LCM is 36. Now, let's try this the other way. If I have the LCM and GCF of 30 and 38. I'm going to start by putting up my ladder. One moment. I'm going to fold this so that you guys can see a little bit better and probably zoom in a bit. That's a little better. Okay, so I'm going to put 30 and 38 in the middle. And I'm going to start dividing by as many common numbers as possible. So if I divide both by 2, I get 15 and 19. I can't divide by 2 again. Can't divide by anything. 19 is a prime number. Apparently this one doesn't work this way. Let's go back to what we were doing. This is what Mrs. Coyle always uses an eraser. So I've got 30 and 38. This is why we have our calculators, because I know I can do 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. Let's try 38 now. 38, 76, 114, 152, 190, 228, 266, 304, 342. These may not have a common multiple. All right, so I kept multiplying and kept multiplying with 38 and 30 in order to find that their least common multiple is actually 520. So here's the thing about this, is that sometimes it's going to take you a long time of listing them, and you just got to keep going and keep going and keep going. Typically, we're not going to give you such large numbers with such weird LCM and GCFs. You're going to have smaller numbers, so please don't panic. Now let's talk about the greatest common factor of 30 and 38. 30 and 38. We can multiply 15 times 2. We can multiply 1 times 30. We can multiply 10 times 3. If we go down here, 19 times 2, 1 times 38, 2. Oh, I already did 2. And I actually can't find any others. So that means that our greatest common factor is actually going to be 2. All right. So let's look at one more. Hopefully it'll go a little bit better. LCM and GCF of 160 and 320. So I'm going to divide them both by 2. So 160 divided by 2 is 80. 320 divided by 2 is 160. Divide by 2 again. I get 40 and 80. Divide by 2 again. I get 20 and 40. Divide by 2 again. I am running a little bit out of room, so if you need notebook paper on your homework, it might be a good idea. Divide by 2 again, and I get 10 and 20. Divide by 2 again, and I get 5 and 10. Divide by 5, and I get 1 and 2. So if I am following what we have set up with GCF, I'm going to multiply the sides. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. 32 times 5 is 160. So So our least common multiple would be 160. Not our least common multiple, our GCF. This will confuse some things. Our GCF would be 160. And our LCM, we would take that 160, multiply it by 1, and then multiply it by 2, which gives us 320. So our GCF was 160, and our least common multiple was 320. So you can use this, but as we found out, it is not always going to work. If we're looking at something like 30 and 38, where it's got crazy amount of numbers. Actually, it would have worked if Miss Coyle had trusted it. If I look at 30 and 38, and I draw, Mrs. Coyle is going to flip to the back, just to show you what I mean. So, and I apologize for talking in third person. That's weird. I've got my ladder. I've got 30 here, 38 here. I know I can divide both by 2. I get 15 and I get 19, and they no longer have a common multiple. So that's what tells me that 2 is going to be my greatest common factor. And then if I multiply 2 times 15 times 19, I end up finding my least common multiple, which is indeed 570. So I apologize. I should have just trusted what our notes were saying, because this is a really quick way of figuring it out, rather than going through the trouble that Mrs. Boyle went to and listing numbers and listing numbers and listing numbers until there was no numbers left to list. All right. You guys have a great day. I miss you very much. I hope to see you soon. Bye.